Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining tonight. We would like to welcome you all to the 6th of the 7th expert panel discussion for the TADS Awards, the world first annual international awards for the tokenized asset and digitalized securities industry. Today's topics will be on the technology landscape in the TADS sectors. We have one more section in here. You can see the Middle East sections. For the next week, covering the key topics for the UAE. Feel free to scan the QR code on the upper right corner to register. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out as well. So now I would like to show you a quick rundown of today's event. I'm Sam Lee, Chairman of Steering Committee of TADS Awards Founders and CEO Constrict Partners. We'll start off with a quick information section on the TADS Awards 2021. Followed by that, then we will have our expert panel discussion, as mentioned is. So with that said, let's have a warm virtual welcome to Sam.
Thank you for the kind introduction. My name is Sam Lee. I'm the chairman of the steering committee of TADS Awards 2021. I'm also the founder and CEO of Constrict Partners. Today is my great pleasure to be here to share with you on some information on TADS Awards 2021. TADS Awards is the world's first annual international awards for tokenized asset and digitized securities sectors. It celebrates this industry by recognizing and honoring significant contribution and distinguished achievement worldwide. It brings together individuals and businesses to share the energy and tokenization that brings to the financial sector. It nurtures the growth of this specific industry by jointly establishing best practices and setting measuring standards for high-quality tokenized asset and digitized securities, together with other industry leaders on the global markets. We are very grateful to host the second year of TADS Awards this year in 2021. We launched the first year of TADS Awards last year in 2020. These are the 10 winners from last year. And among them, we have some very reputable companies and impressive project as well. You can find the details on our website. But this year, TADS Awards 2021, we follow the same structure as last year to separate the awards into two categories. As you can see in the left-hand side, what we call the Best of Class TADS Awards category, it goes to the asset issuers and corporations. And on the right-hand side, the Ecosystem Excellency Awards category, it goes to the service provider and solution providers along the value chain. And underneath each category, we have some subcategory of different awards. For example, on the Best of TADS Awards category, we have 5 sub-awards underneath, namely the equity-backed tokens, which is backed by equity shares of a company, asset-backed tokens, which is backed by physical asset, other assets, or even fiat currency as well. For example, we consider stable coin is also asset-backed tokens. The third type will be tokenized debt, which will be backed by debts, bonds, and debentures. And this year, following the trend, we added the NFT token as well. The NFT token, we focus more on the security nature of NFT, because there are other type of NFT that is not classified as securities. But there are some that have more of an investment element, which can also be classified as security as well. In addition, we have the ESG, SDG tokens, and also adding a new category, subcategory this year is the TADS Rising Star Awards for the best of class TADS category. On the right-hand side, ecosystem excellency, the subcategory includes KYC compliance solution, tokens issuing solution, digital custodian solution, and also this year we adding NFT platform solution and brokerage asset management solution, as well as a new subcategory rewarding the up-and-coming companies under the Rising Star Award. And as you can imagine, these two type of categories, Best of Class TADS and Ecosystem Excellency Awards, they are targeting to different groups of companies. So therefore, we also have different judging criteria at the back. For example, for the Best of Class TADS Awards, we judge the project by the economic viability, innovation, risk management, governance, and compliance. On the other hand, for ecosystem excellency, we judge it by ingenuity, impact, practicality, compliance, and cost efficiency. And you might notice there's one element is common for the two categories is compliance, because we think tokenized asset and digitized securities are regulated products. We believe both on the tokens financial product side and also the technical solution side should also be a compliance solution. We already start the nomination. It will run until end of September, and we are aiming to have an award ceremony in early November as a side event of Hong Kong FinTech Week. These are some of our steering committees. Our organizing committee. We have a separate vetting and judging committee for each category of awards. So these are the vetting and judging committees for Best of Class TADS Awards category. And these are the vetting and judging committee for the Ecosystem Excellency Awards category. Also, thank you for the strong support for our strategic partners, supporting organizations, sponsors, and research and legal partners. And of course, our regulated exchange partners around the world, and PR and media and community partners as well. Thanks to the strong support from the community, we have a very good coverage on the media side in multiple language and different countries. So this is the timeline. As you can see now, we are in the middle of the expert discussion panel sessions. This is, I believe, the 5th session. So we still have 2 more to go. And then we will be heading to the end of our nomination period in end of September. We're aiming to complete the judging in October so that we can make the announcement of results in early November during the award ceremony. These are some of the dates of the rest of the expert discussion panel. So without further delay, I will pass the session back to the host to continue the very exciting expert panel discussion coming up next. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to moderate the session today. As you see, we are going to discuss the technology landscape. And since it's a very broad topic, we are going to focus on tokenization, security token offerings, and digital assets as well. I'm joined by 4 fabulous panelists. They have different backgrounds and they will be sharing their experience and what they have been experiencing throughout the past years. My name is Emil Lurins, and I am joining on or as my title at the Crypto Valley Association. I'm on the board there. We are proud to support TADS because we think it's really important that these projects who are trying to advance the ecosystem and fabulously doing so are remunerated, and they get support from the community. In my full-time role, I work for Ledger, the security company, and more specifically, the Ledger Enterprise Solution, which is here to secure a large amount of assets in a smooth way. To kick this off, I would like to invite the panelists to introduce themselves and share how are they involved in security token or in the technology landscape, if you will, and let us please go in the order of the banner here. So let's start with Simon, and then Peter, Galen, and Ben. So Simon, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Amy, and hello all fellow panelists. I'm Simon Chen from Hong Kong. Hioka Brothers is an asset management company licensed in Hong Kong, and myself has been in the asset management industry for 28 years now. Two of the focuses that have always been in my career, starting with quantitative strategies. One of the first persons to launch back then called index funds, now it's very common, ETFs, factor investing, the sort of using big data to screen factors for strategies. That's on the quant side. Since year 2000, I've been very involved in technology companies, investments, basically in equities, by launching one of the first Asian technology fund back then. So ever since then, there have been a lot of commonalities between quantitative strategies as well as technology, pretty much because the use of in general, calculations and computers, and the need to handle, a tremendous amount of data. And that's what brought me interest into starting with the Bitcoin and crypto, as well as the underlying technology blockchain, which has a lot of similarities to when I first looked at the space, the internet in the year 2000. Now I look at the blockchain. Personally, my hypothesis back then was a 3C on the internet, which is starting with connectivity, then go to content, and then finally go to commerce, which is the e-commerce we are seeing today. And I say that this is Web 2.0. Then with the introduction of blockchain, the maturity of AI and big data, and the introduction of IoT, etc., I call this enablers, we are moving to Web 3.0. And of course, blockchain is one of the key enablers that make it happen. And basically, I would say distributed ledger is really one of the key enablers. I am an investor, so I look for enablers and then try to see what's coming up ahead. And in summary, I now have a new hypothesis. I call them the 3D, wrapped under the Web 3.0, and the 3Ds are digitalization, decentralization, and democratization. So it is under this major framework that the company, we are dedicating our resources. We are looking to launch a fund that is dedicated to this space. So that's my background and our interest and what I'm doing, focusing on, and how this blockchain and Web 3.0 come into the picture. And I'm very delighted to be one of the panelists for today's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter, would you be so kind to go ahead?
Thank you, Chair Lady. This is Peter Koo from Deloitte. I'm the APAC leader of IT and special services from Deloitte. Although residing in Hong Kong, but well, supposedly to travel around. However, during COVID, then I rather stay in Hong Kong. And then just a quick briefing about, from time to time, people may think Deloitte is a CPA firm, but while among Big Four, we have actually converted and call ourselves professional services firm and not simply CPA firm anymore. That's why we do actually work on lots of different areas related to fintech. Then personally, I'm the IMO leader of FinTech in Hong Kong office, Integrated Management Office, IMO. And then we would like to share some of the findings and researches and surveys about this topic. Then I better pass the floor back to you, Chair Lady.
Thanks so much, Peter. Galen?
Amy, thank you very much for today's discussion. My name is Galen, part of the PwC crypto team, part of the core team working on global crypto initiatives. I was the third person to join the core team out of Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, we've got about 40 people working full-time crypto. Globally, we've got about 300 people across 25 different countries. We work with regulators, crypto exchange, crypto funds, institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds, crypto projects, and more. My core focus at PwC, especially based out of Hong Kong, is mostly on the consulting perspective, basically advising how crypto companies could expand their businesses as well as operations, not only in Hong Kong, but also in Asia. From that perspective, if you Google my name, so you'll see that I co-authored multiple PwC publications on crypto, namely CBDC, DeFi, and more. So we've got a really comprehensive team out of Hong Kong, and definitely if there's any services needs or crypto engagements, feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Galen, for the insights. Last but not least, Ben, please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Amy. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. So my name is Ben. I'm the founder and managing director of Stacks. We are a Singapore fintech company that has produced a blockchain-based platform for financial services. So our clients are banks, asset managers, stock exchanges, and we have already been able to help these clients unlock value in the financial industry with the use of digital securities, particularly in sustainable finance. Thank you.
I love that you guys come from various backgrounds. We have two big fours represented, and still you may have different views of how our ecosystem evolves. My first question is, when it comes to trends of the past 12, 18 months, could you share what you see in the overall technology landscape? But also when it comes to STOs, maybe Peter, you could elaborate here, and then Ben, but of course, everyone is welcome to add their 2 cents. Peter, you want to start?
Okay, I thought I'm going to support Ben anyways. Okay, commercial time. According to the Deloitte STO's paper, then we talk about advantages of security token offerings, STO. Then the total level of funds raised from STO on a global basis now exceeded US 360 million already. Then there's a tremendous market demand and opportunity from STOs. Another report from Deloitte, the 2021 Global Blockchain Survey, and major featuring more on digital assets. Over 76% respondents believe digital assets will serve a strong alternative to fiat currencies in 5 to 10 years. In the use cases or in terms of different usages, we have observed the first one, more like deposits and custody, then mostly how the banks and the industries would hold the assets. And then this one, from time to time, it varies from country to country. Some of them, they require licenses, some they don't. Then it varies from different geography. The second is the payments. And then the payments sometimes may be used like a unit of exchange. And then with different kind of currency. Then this kind of nature of Delphi, getting an isolated bodies to a more integrated and simultaneous structure, and getting popular this day. Then another way to view it is more like a new source of funding or new access to funding. Then we see this as new ways of loans or funding with digital access. And then 80% of the respondents added they see new revenue streams from blockchain, digital access, and even crypto solutions. And these kind of new source of funding is getting much more popular these days. And pass the floor back to Shelley and Ben.
Maybe just a question here, Peter, that who were typically the people who responded to this survey?
Okay. This survey we basically got the survey pulled a sample of 1,280 senior executives and practitioners in 10 locations, basically Brazil, China mainland, Germany, Hong Kong, China, Japan, Singapore, South Africa, UAE, and UK, and United States. Then the respondents they do have at least the general understanding of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and digital assets. Hope this helps.
Thanks so much. Great. Ben, would you like to add something to the previous question, as in trends you have been seeing the past 12, 18 months?
Yeah, sure, Amy. So I must also say that I did enjoy the Deloitte paper. I was reading it and I enjoyed the output of it. It was really amazing to see, the survey covering so many companies, and these are all large firms, which means that, this technology is really being generally accepted. So I'd like to add the perspective, because we are from the financial sector, so serving mainly financial institutions. So we have had the same experience here in the financial sector. We do see that the largest financial institutions have also started to embrace the technology, largely because of the benefits it brings even to traditional securities. So while Peter talked about digital assets and STOs, okay, on the other hand, we are also looking at digital securities, whereby banks, asset managers, they have now been able to see operational efficiencies, okay, being deployed when there are use of technology and digitalization for these financial products. Of course, the latest trends in the last 12 to 24 months, I would suggest, is mainly around a few themes of minimum viable ecosystem. We do see now banks are getting to be more and more collaborative. Okay, they are happy to work with each other to explore use cases together, because they realize that definitely when it comes to a trade, for example, there is always a counterparty. Okay, so that's the first trend that I see. Okay, secondly, okay, we are also starting to see more and more deployment of projects. In other words, these were all POCs moving on to projects, and now they are going into the pilot live phase. Just last night, okay, we saw the announcement by the DTCC, okay, that they were going to deploy Project Ion early next year. I was very pleasantly surprised. Of course, it was a sudden news, and it's actually going to be deployed early in Q1 2022. So that's great news for everyone in the industry, because that is a sign of leadership and maturity in the technology landscape. Okay, and of course, besides DTCC, we also hear of various other projects like the Hong Kong Exchange, the Swiss Exchange, etc., where they are really embracing technology like DLT to change the way this financial industry is being operated on. And of course, the third thing that I wanted to share is that, okay, while they are moving on to implementation, okay, they are really sort of taking transformational steps, okay, because these are all large organizations. So as a large organization, they are able to effect the change from the top down. If you're talking about a stock exchange or a large global bank, for example, so this will be able to open up access, okay, to the millions of customers that they are serving, although it's indirect exposure.
Thanks so much, Ben. And yeah, I share your view. It's so exciting to see that, okay, this big name or this big actor from the traditional and legacy finance now enters the ecosystem. And as you said, the Swiss Digital Exchange recently just got its license from FINMA, the local legislator here in Switzerland, to operate an STO exchange. Great. Then I have a question for you, Simon and Galen. And basically, as Web3 evolves, do you really see an economy unfolding where everything is going to be tokenized? And if so, how do you envision this future where maybe even ourselves are tokenized?
Right. Maybe I'll start first. I would say let's say tokenization is a process, and specifically, I think the process to apply the technology, the distributed ledger technology, to be more precise. So, as such, basically, is a different kind of record keeping, but with a very different attributes. So if you ask me, can everything be tokenized? The question will become, should everything be recorded using distributed technology with the reasons behind it? And I believe that many of the asset classes, as we know today, can, but not everyone will choose to. One of the things that people will not choose to is because of the irreversibility of the record. Now, there might be situations where even for big corporations from the top down, they may not want this attribute to be for every record that they have today. So I would say that it is not difficult to go for it, but then, I mean, how do you live with the consequences if you change your mind? Is something that is not yet known, right? Or else we are not really fully applying the whole tokenization spirit. So the short answer to that is yes. If we choose to, almost everything that need a record can be using the distributed ledger technology with new attributes. Now, the record itself can carry a lot of meaning. And basically, I would say that in the financial world where I come from, there are three things that are very important in the record. One is identity. Two is money. Three is trust. So if we have something to represent these three attributes, I would say that let's call it the unit. It's called token because your process is called tokenization, so your output is a token. And that token, whether you want to call it a utility, whatever, asset back, whatever, basically, to me, the three pillars in any financial products or the financial industry will be these three. Without identity, you can't start anything, transactions. Without the payment, I mean, by something called money or digital money, I mean, it won't happen. Even if you want it, it doesn't happen. And then the last but not least of all is how do you actually trust that it has happened and it will, I mean, be valid and it's not reversible. So I would say that these attributes has to be accepted by the mainstream, meaning that all stakeholders, including, I mean, the regulators, the governments, the people, the large corporations, the small businesses, and the common people, right? So theoretically, I would say that it is something that must happen and should happen. But whether the choice is to make it happen, I would say that not too soon. I mean, we probably won't see a token economy in too soon in the short distant future. So that will be my general answer.
Thanks so much. I really like that you highlighted that identity, trust, and what was the third? Money. I believe that these are what are of essence from the view of financial services. Galen, would you like to add something to this? Like, how do you envision a tokenized future?
Great point. Yeah, I think, look, especially in the last 24 months, we've seen a tremendous change in terms of how basically the crypto ecosystem has evolved from, very bare minimal value-based transactions where the Bitcoin's a storage of value are actually being built on either Ethereum, Solana, Flow, and more. So we've seen this huge trend in terms of people going to DeFi, which was early summer last year. From that perspective, we've seen a tremendous growth in terms of TVL. Financial institutions, financial regulators are actually starting to see, wow, the potential of these applications is really game-changing. These types of transactions anymore. And hence, that's why we've seen a huge explosion in terms of TVL, the total value locked within the DeFi ecosystem. And we're seeing much more, especially with the regulatory scrutiny on the FATF, as well as regulatory crackdown. We're seeing much more decentralized protocols like DYDX in terms of having leveraged options on the Ethereum blockchain. Obviously, we've also started to see layer 2s coming out, Immutable X, really focusing on NFTs. NFTs, I believe, is in certain respects is a wild west. I think a lot of the hype and the potential applications has been actually taken over by the NFTs. I mean, why would you want to do the STO route where you're going to cost a few $million on marketing, write a white paper, when you can just tokenize a property through an NFT? Big divergence in terms of what is the purpose of a STO. Is it a dying breed, or whether it's actually superseded by something even better, which is NFTs from this perspective. And regulators haven't caught up with DeFi for now, and yet alone the NFT perspective. So moving on to the tokenization perspective, to quickly summarize, I believe moving into something called the metaverse, and we've seen Mark Zuckerberg talking about the metaverses and in terms of the future of the applications. For example, think about having a car in Rev and you can bring it over, you can port it over to Sandbox. And there's really, really cool applications like Stardust GG came out with these pro game universes. So I think when you talk about the tokenization, I think it's a really broad-based statement. Personally, I'm very bullish in terms of in-game items and NFTs and the application of gaming. The biggest challenge to these barriers of in terms of on-ramp, right? How do you get millions of people around the world, not going through these OTC, these KYC solutions, these really complex solutions where you have a very simple solution like crypto.com where you can quickly onboard with a credit card. So to quickly summarize, I'm really bullish on the tokenization perspective, not so much on STOs. I personally think there's a lot of challenges there and the barriers to entry. However, in terms of the metaverses, tokenization of social media like BitClout or even MetaView, BitClout had a lot of hype in terms of tokenizing people. So I think these are just early days in terms of tokenization of assets and also people.
Thank you very much, and glad to learn that you're bullish on NFTs, similar to myself. The next question is to Peter. So the recently published Deloitte report, you already shared some insights relating to that. It highlights the advantages of STOs. And would you be so kind to share with the audience what is really where some of these benefits stand out? So which are your major findings, basically?
Sure, Lady. Well, technically speaking, STOs actually brings lots of different advantages. Say, fractionalization of access, and it can actually chop it up a little bit and it reduces the minimum investment amount, can share amount of more investors. In some jurisdiction, it could be classified as a professional investors and not regular investors. And then thus the liquidity for fundraising across borders would be facilitated. And the second one would be like immutability of ownership records. It's just blockchain, then you cannot change it with all the smart contracts. Then it's locked and recorded and actually safeguard the validity of the ownership. The third one would be the smart contracts can help reduce risk of error or any cloning, and then say it enhance operational efficiency and streamline the audit purposes. That maybe it doesn't really need audit to an extent if the policy and procedures and the mechanism are actually well handled and well planned. Then, for example, in some dividend and coupon distribution, the smart contract is programmed to auto-instruct distribution. Then at the preset pay date or even amortization or the residual amount or debt, then smart contract can really replace some kind of proxy farms and speeding up the investor voting. And this will actually improve and increase their operational efficiency, effectiveness, and economy of these processes. Then we are really optimistic about this evolution of the STOs and the mechanism behind.
Thanks so much. My next question is to Simon and Galen, and then Peter, you're also welcome to chime in as we have time. So when it comes to the security of the digital assets and STOs, what's your view on how do we best prevent, deter, and also punish bad actors? And if you see best practices, also how to make sure that there is a good infrastructure in place, that's also welcome to be shared. Simon, would you like to go ahead first?
Yeah, this question was originally, posted actually by myself, because I also want to hear other panelists' answers to that. But here is my thinking. When it comes to the security, particularly on the financial products in this space or the DeFi space, what the security we are talking about here goes back to what I said, that in financials, a lot of the institutions, rules and regulations have been set up is in order to provide trust. From discovery to make sure that the transacting people have the ability to transact, and then there is no such a kind of illegal activities involved, and then making sure that it's completed, keeping record, doing the audit, everything, right, is to provide trust to the stakeholders involved. So putting aside, the cyber security that one can basically, change the record. Let's say even if there are records, who are providing them, who are producing them, and who are verifying them, and who actually put a chop saying that this is, basically, what is it, right? So I would say that, if in the industry itself, right, if I would say 80–90% of the functions that exist in the financial industry is in order to provide one or few aspects of this trust, then you put in the blockchain, right? So you can imagine, you can calculate yourself, right? A lot of these may not be needed in the future, and yet, right, may be actually more trustworthy. So I would say that, that is the kind of security I'm most interested in, using this technology. Now, bad actors can't be prevented. You can't prevent a bad actor by first asking whether you are a bad actor. So you can only observe from the behavior. The thing is that how much of this behavior can be observed using the current, let's say, rules and regulations and system, right? There can be some, but still, so I would say that using, this new technology will pose the same questions. But the thing is that if the economics does not support bad actors because it doesn't gain anything from that, right? Then basically, I would say that, naturally, they won't have much of the motivation to do it. So you may lower the overall, attacks. Basically, in the financial industry, attacks meaning stealing money, either in the sunlight or behind the scene, right? So in the sunlight, basically it's difficult, but still there are people in the sunlight, and I'm saying that basically rent seeking can be saying as stealing money, from institutions to, some other people. So it is in the sunlight. So you cannot say that this is illegal, but then, I would also consider them, bad actors, in the financial system. Now, so to deter, make sure that the economics, doesn't work, meaning that your cost is much higher than your reward. So there's no motivation to steal. To punish, I think in the blockchain technology, to punish really is saying that once you did one thing or you attempted to do one bad thing, you've been identified, and then basically you can't hide yourself anymore. It's very transparent. So there's also a deterrent. Basically, people will not accept you any further, right? So that's another angle. Now, to punish them, I would say really to exclude them from certain part of the system, maybe, at the moment is something that is possible. Whether or not you can actually further punish by breaking the laws, I'm not sure. I don't know. But then I think it's similar to what we have today. So in short, I would say that this technology actually may work better. There are three reasons. Number one, if you remove many of the middlemen, the transparency is much higher, and it's actually easier to expose yourself, right? You can't engage in a very complex scheme to hide yourself. So it's just raising the bar, raising the cost, to become a bad actor. So it's one thing. Number two, you have been, once you expose yourself, you've identified your ID is contaminated. It's very difficult to continuously do that. And thirdly, the cost of having the consensus to approve you, right, is increasingly getting higher. So there's no motivation. So I personally think that, from this perspective, applying on digital assets, this technology will be have a very high potential to improve the situations that we have today.
Thank you so much, Simon. I'm hearing through the lines that governance is really important, that there is an intact business logic and multi-authorization or whitelisting various addresses before sending to-dos, plus also freezing potentially some of the assets and marking suspicious addresses is of essence. Galen, what would you add to this topic?
Yeah. I think we should break down the question into two parts. One is what we do at Scape. So at PwC, we have something called a SOC 1, SOC 2 type report, or like attestation, where we basically say to the custodian, look, we'll conduct these range of analysis, these assessments, we'll highlight some of the key areas that you guys need to involve in order to fix to really get this, next phase of the process. Basically, what these is basically a award or this certificate that says, look, everything from the internal controls, the procedures to hold the custody of crypto assets are basically certified by PwC. Everything that we've reviewed, it's all the procedures are in place to keep your money safe and sound. Basically, what this has done is basically not only in Hong Kong, but also in the US, is allowed bigger crypto funds, bigger financial institutions, could be Fidelity, it could be BlackRock, JP Morgan, whatever, these really big entities of these family offices, to trust these certain types of custodians. So from that perspective, we've seen a rapid institutionalization of these crypto asset managers, simply because these growth of these custodians allow them the opportunity to assure the clients that, look, the money that I have in my ledger will not disappear the next day because I lost my crypto seed. To moving on to the second part of the question is, when you talk, one of the hardest places to launder money. Why? It's fully immutable, it's fully transparent, everything is on the ledger. Unlike money, where the paper dollar, you don't know, where it's been, where it's gone through. Cryptocurrency, you can run like basically a tracer, like a cipher trace, or some data analytical tools that basically you can backtrack where the transaction originally came from. And basically when you cash out, all of these crypto exchanges today have a lot of KYC procedures. So how do you get the money out? It's basically impossible unless you have someone that's willing to hold that dirty, tainted cryptocurrency. So from that perspective, I think, the loopholes in terms of illegal activities are starting to shrink. Obviously, we've heard a lot of narratives that, cryptocurrency is used for money laundering. But in actual fact, when you compare with the US dollar value in terms of globally in money laundering, cryptocurrency is actually very, very small. So yeah, I mean, look, we've starting to see a lot of institutionalization, especially in the crypto custody space, increasing such a rapid level. So yeah, so that's a quick overview of my thoughts.
Thanks so much, Galen, for elaborating. You reminded me of a really good TEDx talk by Katie Hahn. She's a partner at Anderson Horowitz now, and she used to be a prosecutor, if I'm not mistaken. And in this talk, she's talking about the ease and the positives of tracing crypto. It's so much more of help or easier. My next question, if or unless anyone has another point to this, it's addressed to Ben and to Simon, but Galen and Peter, you're also welcome to chime in. So I'm curious to hear it in your view in Singapore and also in Hong Kong. Why do these cities stand out, or legislation stand out compared to other hubs in the US or Europe? What also curious in the second part of the question to learn that what could be overall improved in your view?
These are actually good questions. Maybe Ben, maybe you can elaborate. I know I see that look in your eyes.
Yeah, sure. So I can speak from my experiences in Singapore, and I think Simon and everyone else can talk about Hong Kong more. So naturally, I think I'm quite blessed and fortunate to be in Singapore because firstly, if you talk about regulations, I think it's been pretty clear from the MAS how they regulate digital assets, okay, tokenized securities, so etc. They have been pretty clear. Okay, for crypto, for example, it'll be under Payment Services Act. For anything else, it will be under Securities and Futures Act, of which they have been very well defined, and they actually do welcome license applications. So they're not saying no, they're just saying that you want to do this business, you can get license. Okay, and so that's where I think there's some regulatory clarity. And more than that, the MAS has actually been very forward-thinking and encouraging innovation. They actually set aside funding for innovation in this financial sector. Okay, so that's where, as a company, we have also gotten some benefits. Whereby some of our projects have been funded under the MAS FSTI. They call it the Financial Sector Technology Innovation Scheme. So they really love for the financial industry to embrace technology, and that is a very encouraging sign. Okay, from the regulator here. Your second question about what could be overall improved, right? I would think it's really more on a macro basis rather than just targeting only a single country, because I do think that regulators need to work with each other, because sometimes by the nature of technology, these assets or these securities could be traded or transferred, okay, between counterparties that could be in different places. And if you are happening to be in one other country that recognizes such technology in a different way, then it's actually going to be causing friction. So, but having said that, I think that of course the regulatory landscape has been much better today. We are starting to see even central banks working with each other in the multi-CBDC experiments, such that they could now see the equivalence. Yeah, so that's from my perspective in Singapore.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Ben. Maybe Simon or Galen, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I will add because it's where the how Hong Kong stand. To become a digital asset hub. I guess that it has a lot to do with first of all the government policies to want it to make it a hub. Particularly going forward, it will be increasingly driven by that. Unlike in the past, it may naturally grow into a hub when you have enough talents to come together. The reason I said that is that if you look at crypto or technology in general, I think Hong Kong used to be focusing on the applications to assess whether it is something, that people should, or they encourage the applications. Whereas I think if you look at it in mainland China, they seem to be more focused on the infrastructure, technology as an infrastructure. In the recent, crypto, you can clearly see the divergence that applications need to come after it is clear what the mainland will be using for the infrastructure. For example, let's say a lot of applications in Hong Kong using Ethereum for DeFi or Solana for NFT, and then one day China say no, we are not going to support this infrastructure. So what would that happen? On the one hand, you would say that it's irrelevant. But on the other hand, I think it is very relevant because, Hong Kong as a market for financial products in particular, has an overall aim to be very integrated with the mainland. So either we need to wait until it is more clear about what infrastructure they are using. For example, the digital yuan. What infrastructure is that? It's not transparent enough for anyone to adopt. And the specification is not clear. And they are not transparent, but still, it is a huge infrastructure, that is already flowing. So how would Hong Kong use digital yuan and using this infrastructure or overseas, for example, in Singapore? How would you respond to that? So I guess that because of this attitude, to become a hub will be a very difficult question to ask unless, we have, more clarity. Of course, you can put that aside and develop using more global standards. But still, where is the global standard? I'm sure that, for example, in Europe, they will be going on a path which is very different, from the US intentionally, right, consciously. So where's this global standard? So I would say that to become a hub on financial products, including digital assets, I think, again, there's possibility, but the policy seems to me is not clear. It's not that they are not, encouraging innovations. They always been encouraging innovation everywhere, right? It's just that, where should people focus their efforts on? I think it is increasingly being put into question with, my observation, what mainland China is doing. So I think in this regard, personally, I think Singapore might have an edge when it comes to becoming a regional hub in the coming future.
Thanks so much, Simon. I do see it from afar, also like that, as you said, that Singapore is going to further stand out and strengthen its position globally. I would like to encourage the participants and the attendees to drop a question or two if they have any, because we are approaching to the last questions. Basically, I would like to ask you, Peter, thanks for highlighting that 76% of that global blockchain survey run by Deloitte think that cryptocurrencies, or as in digital assets, are going to serve as a strong alternative to fiat in the next 5 to 10 years. And do you really think that we have to wait so long? As in, I feel like they already serve as an alternative to fiat, maybe not adopted to the level we wish, but we're on the verge of that. So what's your feeling? What's your view there?
Yeah, this is a very good but tricky question. Thanks for the question, chair lady. Okay, it appears well, the cryptocurrency for something like Bitcoin and more for speculation it runs faster than normal. But talking about the regular use like a payment, custody, I think to a certain extent with lots of geography, it has not started. And some of them they started, but still in an infancy stage. Say, well, talking about MAS, they started with licensees more on custody and even the trading platform operator. Then compared to Hong Kong, then yeah, they also started. I think I have a little bit different view compared to Simon. Yes. Singapore is much more relaxing from MAS point of view. However, never underestimate well their global trend, say the influence of China. Then Hong Kong, actually, the government got somewhere in between. On one hand, the mainland may or may not that welcome anything else or crypto other than CBDC in appearance. And always regulation and laws are always behind the actual trend. That's why I concur to you, chair lady. And then this is somewhere we actually get caught in between. And whether we should wait till the international standard or the inter-country or the interbank, they come to a consensus agreement with free trading of these kind of CBDCs or DCEPs, either one, or at least get some kind of crypto, say, like Galen mentioned about the NFT or Delphi, then these are already running. And put it this way, for the well, legitimate ones, they may take another 5 to 10 years due to the legislation or evolution. But for the revolutionary ones, they are already kicking in. And interestingly, some geography, if you have not got so-called set up like a permanent establishment in the geographic areas or jurisdiction, then they don't rule. They say this is none of our business with the local authorities. Is that interesting? And that's why for cryptocurrency is on the internet, it's global. That's why how would you work around this if those ones are not so-called legitimate ones? They may run faster than the CBDCs or the DCEPs. But talking about the CBDC and the DCEPs, well, still, we have to wait for the legislation and the inter-country or interbank consensus or agreement. And that's why there's a gap in between. Hope it explains.
Thanks so much. So we got to the last question, and I would love to ask all of you to respond just in 2-3 sentences. And yeah, this is addressed to each of you, as I said. So what shall improve towards the adoption of blockchain tech for digital assets and digital securities. If you could name one or two things, maybe we can start again with Simon and then Ben, Peter, Galan.
I think to improve or to increase the adoption, three things in my mind has to change. First of all, is change the mindsets with more knowledge. And secondly, is that a lot of experiments, a lot of proof of concepts needs to be put in place. So people need to be encouraged to do that, and they're supported by, let's say, the public and private sector. And then thirdly, I believe is that we need to think about risk before we start. Because I think all those experiments or all those applications that put in the market has to have a skin in the game. I mean, there should be downside. I mean, if you kind of like basically bring something bad, right? So it's not pure academic analysis. It has to be, I mean, real experimental business put out. And then I would say that what if that we have this environment, then the adoption can go very, very fast.
Thanks so much. I agree with the mindset, absolutely. Ben, what is your take?
Well, one word, interoperability. So as a tech firm, what I want to bring is to the, to the world, the ability to allow such technologies to interoperate with each other and also with legacy tech, so that the cost or effort to adoption is as low as possible.
Thank you so much. Galan?
Yep. I think on the final note, I think there are two key things. One is the education and also building trust in society. At PwC, our motto has always been, trying to deliver value and, increasing the trust, because a lot of people, find cryptocurrency so mystifying. It's, there's a lot of negative information about it. So I think it's up to everyone to really build a good image and also building trust, especially to bring new users into the space.
Fantastic. Couldn't agree more. Peter, what is your take?
As my previous response to the previous question, well, personally, I believe the legislation and regulations are the greatest need to change to catch up with the actual trend in the marketplace. Then second, cybersecurity and data privacy will be one of the biggest obstacles we have to face, and how to actually adapt and accept using digital assets. But I totally concur to the other speakers. Welcome to the brave new world. Then get ready for the new change. Cryptocurrency would be trendy.
Oh, beautiful closing right there. Welcome to the great new world. And I put my hands together to all of you. Thank you so much, Simon, Ben, Galan, and Peter. Clap, clap, clap. I really hope that I can welcome you soon in the Crypto Valley Association in person. I will be happy to show you around. And thank you so much for TADS for bringing such bright minds together and basically advancing our industry further. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.